So the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. Jesus also says the Sabbath is made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Sabbath, of course, means rest. What we understand as rest oftentimes, though, is unhelpful, right? We imagine rest as sort of a lethargy, right? If you do rest well, rest is a thing that you can do like forever. So many times, though, how many of us just grow tired or bored of what we kind of imagine rest to be? Like it's like, oh, I'm gonna take a load off and turn the TV on, and like 3 hours later, like there's just this ick. Rest shouldn't cause an in us, right? It should cause a delight. And so rest includes activity. Rest allows for the application of our mind and of our strength, of our bodies, our imagination. It allows for conversation and silence. All of this kind of falls under the category of rest, but that's what we do every day anyways. So how is it different? It's different because it allows for a freedom of application. When we go to work, somebody else tells us when and how we're to do the things that otherwise might be rest. This is what happened in the curse in the fall. When Adam sinned, God said, from now on, from the sweat of your brow and the toil of your labors will come forth not wheat but thorns and thistles. Like everything about your work will be frustrated. You'll do the same thing, it just won't work real well, right? So Adam's job in the garden before the fall was work. He just didn't feel like work. Tend the garden. Right? That's not, I certainly don't think, some of you might think tending a garden is relaxing. I don't think tending a garden is relaxing. Right? But that was Adam's job. And he loved it. He delighted in it. It was just like the greatest thing in the world for him. And then he sinned. And essentially God said, you're going to do the same thing. You won't do it here in the garden because this place is nice and you're not nice right now. So go away. But you're going to essentially do the same thing. Only now you're going to complain about it. You're going to get home from work and you're going to complain about it, right? That's what you're going to do. And it's because, one, you're being... So in our current situation here, jump from Adam to sort of our experience, you're going to be told to do a thing that maybe you would ordinarily like doing, but you're going to be told to do it. How often is it that as soon as we're told to do a thing, we lose interest in it, right? Otherwise, we're fine. Like, I don't do woodwork for people usually, because as soon as somebody says, hey, can you do this thing for me? And I say yes, all of a sudden the last thing I want to do is go down into the basement and do the thing that otherwise is like a delightful hobby for me, right? It's that compulsion that sort of spoils a thing for us, right? Then also, it's not just the when, but it's also the how. People become critical of the thing that you're doing that you would otherwise delight in doing, right? Oh man, that's not good enough. Well, yeah, but I did a thing that I like to do. But because I was doing it for you, you have some control, some power to criticize that thing, right? And that kind of removes the restfulness, the joy, the delight of a thing that we would otherwise like doing, right? So when we talk about the Sabbath as Christians, and this is true about Jews too, they had built up so much litigious sort of culture around their religion that they lost sight of this, right? That the Sabbath is not here to say, go be selfish, go be indulgent, go be lazy. Sunday, for example, is not a day that we're supposed to be lazy. Sunday is not a day that we're supposed to be selfish. Sunday is a day that we're meant to be free to decide when and how we will apply mercy and charity in our day on our own. It's my decision. I am delighting in the anticipation that on Sunday I have the freedom to do what I do every day of the week, but do it freely and for God. Do it with generosity, not with compulsion, right? So the Sabbath is intended to be a foretaste of heaven as well. And sometimes we think to ourselves, if heaven is like what I consider vacation to be, I'm not sure I could do it forever, right? You think to yourself, again, the beach and the lawn chair and the Mai Tai and the umbrella and the coast, and the book. And you think to yourself, that's a wonderful rest. And for a while it's a good decompression, right? But it's not sustainable. That is not a thing. You would very quickly grow weary of that condition. We are active, dynamic people, creatures. We want to get up. We want to move. We want to move things. We want to do things. We want to imagine. We want to create. There's nothing more restful than leisurely creating. That's different from lethargy, right? That's different from laziness. It's different from static. That dynamism of sharing in the imaginative creativity of God. And to do that with absolute freedom and delight. That's the sustainability of heaven. That's the Sabbath of heaven. And that's what Jesus is trying to get across to these people here. He's like, man, all you're thinking about are the laws that you guys set up, not me, that you guys set up in order to legislate a thing that is in its essence intended to be non-legislative, right? They had rules about how many steps you could take during the Sabbath. Today, Jews are not allowed to touch elevator buttons on the Sabbath. So if they have to get into an elevator, they either have to get a pagan boy or a Gentile to push the elevator button for them, or they have to put the elevators on automatic go. And that's what usually happens. They stop at every floor. The elevators run all day long, stopping at every floor. Whether you're on the ground floor and you're going to the 5th floor and nobody else is in the elevator, it's going to stop at 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Because you're not allowed to push that. That's work. You can't push that button, right? You can't turn your stove on. Literally, all the Jewish neighborhoods have little kids that are Gentile kids that run around turning on little Jewish lady stoves on the Sabbath, because you're not allowed to do that. Now, apparently you can cook because you're allowed to turn the stove on, but you're not allowed to turn the stove on, right? I mean, this is the kind of, that itself becomes enslaving. It's completely self-defeating of the Sabbath. What Jesus is saying is, if these guys are hungry and the thing that is going to give them rest is to pick a couple heads of grain so that they can eat food and not die, that's not breaking the Sabbath, because you're missing the point, right? The point is not and I've tried to say this before, it's not so much about what you're doing on the Sabbath, but why you're doing it. Because the church teaches you must refrain from servile labor on the Sabbath. It doesn't mean you can't the church doesn't say you cannot do X, Y, or Z. It says you may not do servile labor. What that means is, if there is nothing in the world for you greater than putting on a pair of headphones, those big old man yellow 3M headphones, and getting on your riding lawnmower with a Coors Light in the cup holder to get away from it all and mow the lawn, do it. That's wonderful. That's Sabbath, right? Because you're being productive, but you're doing it with delight and leisure and ease. Now, if you're a landscaper and you're running over to somebody's house to cut their lawn and take payment for it as part of your job on Sunday, that would be servile labor. You're being compelled and being paid to do the same exact thing, right? So that's what Jesus is trying to get across here. Is that, look, we are made to be working creatures, but not slaves. That's the difference. And the Sabbath is meant to give us a foretaste of what that's going to be like in heaven, where on Sunday we're free to do what we feel is going to rejuvenate us, is going to remind us that all the things that we have to do during the week is not what we're made for. But we're made for freedom, to choose to do the things that we do, right? And this is why there are so little rules or legislation around the Sunday Sabbath for Christians. The only thing that's really said, there are two things that are really said, is worship God, which is, again, what heaven's going to be. That's the work, right? The Mass is work. The Mass is not a gift to you. It's a work that you give to God, right? So that's work. So already we're working on the Sabbath, but we're doing it, we're intending to do it with freedom and with joy, right? And to be merciful, right? If there's somebody in need of mercy, go and do that thing that they need. And do it with freedom and with liberality. Otherwise, do whatever you want, right? It's Sunday. You want to go play golf? You want to cut the lawn? You want to, I don't know why you'd want to. I've told you this already. You want to go pluck the weeds of your garden because it gives you satisfaction? You want to talk to a plant? Talk to a plant. That's fine. Some of y'all people are weird. I don't know. But that's what the Sabbath is for. And this is why Jesus is getting all grumpy with these Pharisees. Not because they respect the Sabbath. He wants us to respect the Sabbath. He just wants us to understand the Sabbath the right way. Don't do servile labor. Worship God. And apply be merciful. Those are the three things. I said two earlier. I meant to say three. Those are the three things. Don't do servile labor. So don't be a slave on Sunday. Don't do things for money. Don't do things for work, right? Worship God and be merciful. Let's do that, and we'll actually start to see in a more mature way, not a third grader way, what heaven is. Right? We'll have a more mature adult understanding of what heaven's going to be like, and that'll actually get us really, really excited. And when we get excited for something that is in the future, that increases our hope. And when our hope is increased, our faith is stronger too.